Goed dat je luistert naar een nieuwe aflevering van Paul de Vries vanuit de podcaststudio in Ede met de missie de online Automotive beter te maken. Dit doet Paul met de volgende partners met dezelfde missie: Marktplaats, Coldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Vindio, Used Car Controller en tweedehands.be.
David, the floor is yours.
Thank you. What did he say? So Paul, thank you so much for being here. Would you do me a big favor? I'm always telling people, because I have the good blessing of being able to travel to different parts of the U.S. and Canada, but very rarely do I get to come overseas, and so it's a real treat. What I'd love to do is for you all to wave to my family and friends back home so I can prove to them that I was here. So you ready, set, go. All right, hello. Awesome, thank you. That's a good way to start. I'm done. No, I'm kidding. I've got some good stuff I want to share with you, and it is fun to come into an international audience because I don't know what your all's marketplace is like compared to ours. I do know this, you all have in this room alone, you all have the #1 internet trainer in the world. I guess I should say at least in the Netherlands, right, Paul? And I'm #2 in the Netherlands today. Now, when he comes to the U.S., I'm #1 and he's #2. So as we carry on that competitive exchange, it's fun because Paul has been to our workshop a couple of times, and he's very well known in the United States as the European champion for internet. And when you think about it, the internet for selling began in our country in 1996, 1997. Ironically, it wasn't called, the #1 internet site in America at that time wasn't called Auto Internet. Does anybody remember what it was called? Auto by Tel. Now, how crazy is that? Well, they named it that for one simple reason. Nobody knew what the internet was in 96 or 97. You would plug in and you'd hear the whatever noise that was, and in about 10 minutes later you'd see a website. And if you got a lead, you would print it out and you'd put it in a 3-ring binder and you'd call them in a couple of days. If they didn't come in, you figured, well, I better wake them up and let them know that they were interested in the vehicle a couple of days ago. Now, what's so ironic about that is Paul went through his mystery shopping, and when you think about the advancements in technology, the advancements in experience and communications, why are we still challenged with some of those same fundamental issues that we had before? And communications is the real driver. So we're going to hit on some of the key things as we go forward. So I've titled the presentation, Thoughts and Ideas to Get to a Yes. Now, I don't know about you all, but is there any greater language, any greater word at a car dealership, wherever you are, than when a guest says that magic word? Yes. Would you like to buy the car? Yes. Would you like to take it home? Yes. Would you like to pay me too much money? Yes. Would you like to take too little for your trade-in? Yes. You know, not that anybody ever agrees to any of those things, but the fact is we all strive for a yes. Would you like to come in for an appointment? Yes. It's a struggle to get to that level. And what we want to do is repetitively just teach in a cultural standpoint what it takes to get there. So we're going to hit on those highlights today. I come from an automotive family. I sold my first car in 1980. If you'll notice, it was only $6,617. Brand new. It was the Ford Escort. And so my family started in the Ford business in the car business in 1952. In 1960, there were two important events in my father's household. He became a Ford dealer, and I was born. How about that? No coincidence, right? So we still have our family's Ford dealership, and that's where I worked for 20 years professionally. But just like a lot of dealers' kids, I grew up in and around the dealership. I've got 8 brothers and sisters, and we all learned the car business at a very early age. My dad is 92 years old, and he still goes to work every single day when he's feeling up to it or COVID's not around or something like that. But he shakes the hands of our customers, and he taught all of us that it was always about the customer. So the best advice my dad ever gave me all those years ago, I was asking him, what's it take to succeed in the car business? And he goes, oh son, if you want to be good in the car business, you've got to get out of the car business. And I was like, Dad, it's our family. I'm coming up. Don't get out yet. And he goes, we're not in the car business. We're in the people business. And that really sustains. And even today, we have car salespeople that work the cash register. They're like the checkout person at the grocery store or at the coffee shop. They just sit there and think it's all about the transaction and the money. Well, that won't happen unless the relationship happens first. So we've got to get to that point. Now, in the year 2000, I was a member of Ford's Dealer Council, and we created a company called Ford Direct. And that is Ford's internet marketing play. It's 21 years old now. I became the first employee and the chief operating officer of Ford Direct all those years ago. And I was very fortunate because I got to travel all over the United States and see some of the best internet dealers at their very outset when they were first getting started. And after 3.5 years, what I discovered was dealers needed training. They need to learn how to do this. So very quickly, I thought, well, I'm going to do a business model. I created this training company. My best days in my life are when I ran into Paul. I met him in a hallway in the event in San Francisco. He looked like a smart fella, and my life changed from that point forward. And I've been lucky. I've gotten to go to China, Australia, Brazil, other countries, but truly, and I say this with all sincerity, I love coming here. You guys are really nice people, and it's a good cultural fit for me. So I applaud you all for the way you all embrace us. My wife and I feel very comfortable when we're in your country. So thank you very much for that. So we're going to cover about 8 things today, and we'll get right to it. So success begins and ends with the process. And I want to share this. If you're in your dealership and you're struggling with sales success on the internet, check the process. Run it for a few weeks, and if you're still having trouble, check the process. Run it for a few weeks, and if you're still having trouble, what should you do? Check the process. It's always about the process. And what we've got to do is trust our ability to identify where the opportunities are. So what we found is 100% of your opportunities are going to come from your marketing. But I think you'll agree with me when I say 100% of your results come from the process. Now, when you think about process, I like to give you just kind of a thing to think about. Performance relies on completing every single step. The challenge I would lay in front of you all is if you have team members skipping steps, you have too many steps. Thin it out. A good example, and let me ask you all this. If I send you a long email, how much do you read? First couple sentences maybe, right? If I send you a 1-sentence email, how much do you read? 100%. So what we find is a lot of times we can't get our team to buy into the process because we show them the picture. We say, all you got to do is these 30 things. And they're like, I quit. How about the one thing? So what I would ask you to do with your processes is think about what are the key pieces that we've got to do to cause success for our team members and then build on that. And the more success they have with these small things, the more you can ask them to continue communicating with the guests. Now, in front of you is 18 years of proven processes and tactics. But I want to have a little fun with you all. Do any of you all ever go to a bar and have a drink? Just raise your hand. Oh, I knew I was in the right crowd. I told you I was in the right audience. Did anybody wake up this morning and feel particularly strong? Anybody, do some workout? You did? Come on up here if you don't mind. So when I'm preparing to do a presentation, normally I like to get these laminated. And I went to the print shop and they said, hey, you don't need to waste any effort on lamination anymore. These are indestructible. So I want to ask you, would you rip that in half for me? I'll give you $100 US. Just maybe, tear it.
Maybe it's a shame to rip it apart because it's not intelligent stuff. Huh?
Yeah, it is invaluable, no question. But just give it a big tear. All right, can't do it?
No, can't do it.
Anybody else? $100? All right, so if you are interested, I've got these up front here. You can come get them after the presentation. And you also can just recognize, almost like if you're taking a medication, for best results, use daily. On this, you're going to have the process that we recommend. You're going to have some tactical elements that are not best practices in the U.S., but they are proven practices in the U.S. If you can get your team to apply these ideas, they'll do really well. Now, why do I give you this little 2-page document? Because you'll keep it. If I give you a book, it's going to go on a shelf and you'll never see it again. So what we do when we go into a dealership is we give the sales team members those digital success guides, and then we teach them, and then we reteach them, and then we reteach them. Let me ask you this. How many days does it take to make something a habit? Just throw out a number.
6 weeks.
6 weeks? 100? So over in a country called Italy, all right, there's a professor, he's Italian, he's a University College in London, his name's Filippo Lally, and he did the science on it, and he discovered it takes 66 days. So 1 month and 6 days. So if you can get your team to apply process improvements for 2 months and 6 days, you're going to make your life that much better. But what happens is not that our team member quits the process. Who quits the process? Customer doesn't even know about it. Who manages the team? The sales managers. Whenever I go into a dealership, it's never the team members that quit the process. It's the manager. And what we've got to do as leaders is we've got to make sure that we don't quit on our team. We've got to do it until such a point it becomes a habit. So if you're interested and you want a free copy, you can email me and I'll send it out to you. You can print it out and make as many copies as you want for your team. And I'll even tell you how to get the indestructible paper. All right? So keep that in mind. Now, one of the things that we understand is process is science. We study it. We, just like Paul with the mystery shopping, we look at the time of response. We look at the sequence of response, the method of response, phone call, email, text, what works. Does video amplify and turbo boost it? Those things we study. But what really is the science is the process, but the art is the tactics. And most of our tactics are driven by the words that we choose. So your team is probably very capable, but they might be saying the wrong thing. I learned this a long time ago from a great trainer in the U.S. called Joe Verdi. And he said, everybody uses a script. And if you don't believe it, keep asking the same question and they'll say it the exact same way over and over and over again. What's your best price? What's my trade worth? And we say the same thing. What we're finding is we want to say the words that work. So words truly matter. So we've got some situational elements that we've learned, and what we found is no matter what they throw out at us, what's your best price? I'm glad you asked. We saw George present. How many of you all asked a good question? George said all of you did. I didn't think all of them were that good, but George thought they were. All right, I'm teasing. But the fact of the matter is, we should be glad when they ask because they're showing interest. But a lot of times our team members, when the customer says, what's your best price? We're like, well, hold on. Well, they need to be coached. That's a very positive buying sign when the customer wants to know that. So I'm going to teach our team to say, I'm glad you asked. I can help you with that right away. I like to lower the barrier. I want that guest to know, whoa, this is great. I get help like right now. So if I'm on the phone, if I'm texting, if I'm emailing, I'm in a position where I can say I can help you with that right away. When I say to any of you all, hey, I can help you right away, it emotionally gratifies you because you're thinking, wow, this is great. But then I have to think, do I strategically give them a number? Well, maybe I say something like this. Most people like to arrange a visit. And then I move them off of the price and I move them forward. So just because the guest is asking for something doesn't mean we have to do it right now, and then we move to what we want to do. But the guest could be persistent. What we've learned is that's okay if they ask, give them the information, and move them forward. What we've also learned is something I needed in high school, I needed it in college too, was this handbook. Of all the books I've read, this not only has big letters, but it's really short. And it's my perfect kind of book. So what's great is the author, Phil Jones, he says, motivate your customers to agree with you by giving them easy things to agree to. Things that ask them to act on their impulses. So I would ask you to consider listening to or reading this book. If you download it from a company called Audible, you can actually hear the author present it. So it's pretty cool when he does that. Now here's what's great about scripting and call guides. And if you look in the blue, you'll see that's a call guide. Those are things that you need to check off, if you will. So when I started selling cars way back in 1982, from a professional standpoint, we were not allowed to answer the phone unless we had a call guide. It was a 2-part form, and we wrote the guest's name on it. It's very similar to what you see here. So we put the information on there, we put the notes, and we were required to follow that guide. And if we followed that guide, we ended up with an appointment. And if we could get them in, we could get them sold. So what I want to encourage you all to do is to trust the statistics on this. We've read the latest research, and call guides and scripting provide 2 times better results. So let me share this with you. If you are on the phone 50 times, you're going to get 2 times better results. If you're on the phone 10 times, you're going to get 2 times better results. So what we want to do is to create a really well-crafted group of team members that understand what to say over and over and over again. And even if they are really skilled, they're the ones that are the most challenging to get to say the right things because the marketplace changed. We're in the midst of 15, 20 months of dynamic change in our industry. We've all had to adjust our scripting. So we've rewritten these scripts 2 or 3 times through COVID and through the chip shortage. So you need to own your scripting and give your team members that daily routine. So every morning we get up, we probably clean up, we might shave, we might eat breakfast, and that becomes routine. Here's the easiest way to get your team to do scripting. Every morning, ask your team members to role play with one another for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Anybody will go for 5 minutes. And don't do it in front of everybody, just put them together. You two are, you two, and now we do 5 minutes. At the end of the week, we've done 25 minutes of role playing, script practicing. At the end of the month, we've done 100 minutes of role playing and scripting, 5 minutes at a time. That's how we build a habit. They will say what you want them to say if you give them the words. Your team needs to do that. I'll give this to you in an editable format if you're interested. Just let me know, and you can make it your own. You can put your own words on there. You can do it in Dutch, and it will be very effective, so keep that in mind. Just let me know if you're interested, and I'll send it over to you. Now, we have this thing called COVID that we think is going away, and then it comes back. Well, it really has changed the auto industry in the United States, and I trust it has impacted you all as well. Interesting enough, if you think about the business meeting that's taking place in this boardroom, the CEO says, digital transformation is years away. I don't see our company having to change anytime soon. And outside is the COVID wrecking ball getting ready to tell him that you're crazy. So all across the United States, the biggest automotive market in the whole world, close signs went up. You guys probably had to do that. How many of you all had to close your dealership during the pandemic at some point? Yeah, it's brutal, right? Hard to sell cars that way. Well, I will tell you that remote selling saved the U.S. auto industry. Our ability to let the guests buy from home made all the difference in the world. We even got to the point to where it became really competitive. You can buy from home, but you can also do express. We do it faster here if you want to buy from home. So that's how competitive our industry is. You want to buy a car in an hour? We can do it in 30 minutes at our dealership. So that's where we developed. And COVID caused us to be innovative, and we embraced those changes, and we did a really great job with it. Sales teams adapted. We started masking up when we were finally able to have people come back into the showroom, and that afforded us the ability to do something we should have been doing all along. Successful dealers make the guest feel safe. Now, why did it take COVID to get a lot of dealers to that level? We should make the guests feel safe when we don't have the virus going on. We should help the guests feel like they're not going to get taken advantage of when they don't have something like this going on. What we found is your guests have to trust you all. Your guests have to feel like your team member is on their side of the equation. So I'll share this anecdote. My wife came with me, and she's outside, and she worked in a home shop. So you all might know Paul. His wife owns a home shop, and you can buy furniture and stuff. So my wife worked in one in Lexington, Kentucky, where we're from. People would come in, and when she first started working there, she would say, oh, thanks for coming in. Let me show you this. Let me show you that. Let me do this. Let me do that. And the guests weren't buying from her, and she couldn't understand it. And then one day she changed her script, and it was ever so subtle. The guest came in, and she says, welcome to the shop. What do you like? What would you like to do? What are you interested in? What colors do you like? What kind of fabrics do you like? What kind of furniture do you like? And all of a sudden, it clicked. The guest felt taken care of. The guest felt comfortable that she had their best interest in mind, and it made all the difference in the world. And I want you to think about your own sales team. How many of them are thinking selfishly for themselves, or how many of them are thinking purposefully about the guest needs? Because oftentimes, we just try to get the deal. I know in the U.S., that's all we think about. I was with a dealership that I worked with recently, and I've got this new young salesperson. He just came through training at the dealership, and we're working with him and teaching him how to sell cars on the internet. I said, talk to me about what you do when a guest is on the lot. Do you ask them what they're interested in? He goes, oh yeah. And while they're talking, now please pay close attention, while they are telling me what they want, you know what I'm doing? I'm trying to look at the lot and think of which vehicle I can sell them that will make me the most money. He was the most honest. And what they say out of the mouths of children, right? Come the truth, he's a very young salesperson. Who trained him? His manager. His manager's probably saying, high five. Great job. That's what you need to think about. Don't worry about what the guest needs are. Worry about what your needs are. Well, he's a good salesperson, but I will tell you, during the pandemic and during the chip shortage, you could put my cat on the showroom floor and he could sell a car. So how good are we when the going gets tough and everybody's got a lot of inventory and pricing is competitive? How will that same salesperson do during that time when they're not caring about the guests? Well, it becomes a problem. So what we want to do is think about how that plays out in regular time. So digital retailing, aka also known as remote selling, is what really percolated up. Once we went into the COVID mode, Stellantis, Ford, Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, VW, all of them said, oh my gosh, you have got to get digital retailing on your website. Well, think about this. Digital retailing is a technology. What does it do? It allows the guest to see your inventory and select it. It allows your guest to get a price. It allows your guest to figure trade value. It allows your guest to figure payments. What's different than what we had before? Well, digital retailing is now a package, and a technology company will come in and they'll make that package work really well on your website. But it doesn't mean the guest is going to agree with it. It doesn't mean that your team is going to absorb it and make a process and a habit out of it. Digital retailing fails in the U.S. in most dealerships. Do you know why? When you're doing the analysis, what should you do first? Check the... Yeah, it's the process. It's always the process. So the technology is wonderful. The guests love it. Sales team members love it. But we've got to have the process. The management and the team have to do it. Now what's interesting is, in a study done by Roadster, which is the dominant digital retailing platform in the U.S. and our National Auto Dealers Association, they said 86% of customers surveyed completed some of the transaction online. Now, Paul, you and I have been doing this for a few years. How is this different than 5 years ago? It's no different. I promise in our market, 86% of people completed some part of the transaction online then. So digital retailing is just a technology, and it's a great one. I love it. I would love to come into my dealership in the morning and know that the guests sold themselves 5 cars. That'd be great. Hey, let's get some coffee. How many cars did the computer sell last night? 5 cars, great. Let's get them cleaned up and ready. I love that. But we've got to make sure that our team embraces it on the floor. So what we find is digital retailing typically shaves off about an hour in the visit to the dealership. If, and only if, the dealership sales team embraces it. So a lot of our guests are using digital retailing and they do not fill out a form. They just get the information and they walk in. It always is funny for me. I'll go work at the dealership and they'll say, this is our internet team. There's 5 of them, but then I've got 20 other salespeople called floor salespeople. They don't work with internet leads. And I'm like, well, in the U.S., 95% of people are using the internet to shop. They're all internet salespeople, aren't they? They just didn't get the lead. So when someone comes in with their feet, they are an internet customer because they've shopped online, they've gathered information. So what we want to do is get the whole team aligned to the process. So ultimately, digital retailing only works if our systems embrace it and absorb it. So we've got to get our CRM tool to make it easy. One of the big issues right now with digital retailing in the US is our CRMs don't really work real handy with them. Our F&I menus, our financing and our insurance that we offer as part of our strategy doesn't work real handily with it. Payments are not calculating properly, and it causes distrust. We can't DocuSign. In the Netherlands, can you all do electronic documentation without the wet signature? Raise your hand if you can. Yeah, we can't in the United States. And here's what's so funny. If you talk to US-based dealers and you say, I'm going over to the Netherlands and I'm going to show them some best practices, they think, oh, well, those backwards people in the Netherlands, you better go teach them. And I'm like, dude, they are so far advanced over us, and they do so many things extremely well. I'm humbled to get in front of these guys. And that's accurate. We don't do DocuSign in the US. It's so few and far between. Most of ours are still hand on paper, ink on paper, do the deal that way, even though we're so digitally sophisticated. And our DMS systems don't work well with it. So when you think about it, our biggest challenges really come in the area of desking, duplicate leads, no DMS push, and certainly we can't do the documentation delivery. So those are big challenges for us. It also is important to take digital retailing to the sales floor. If you're going to do it, your team members on the floor should embrace it. We encourage working every deal digitally, even if they come in. We'll use a tablet, we'll use a computer screen. For whatever reason, when the customer sees it on that screen, they trust it. I can write it in real good print, but they don't trust it as much as if they see it online. So we want the whole sales team to do it. Now the good news is, in the study that Roadster and the NADA did, they found out that sales agents that use digital retailing on average sell 17 cars a month. That's 70% more than salespeople who don't use it. So if I'm one of your floor salespeople, teach me how to do digital retailing and I'll perhaps sell more cars if you've got a good process. Now the other thing that we learned during COVID was digital retailing works best if we do a strategy called co-navigating. It is so simple. We do this all the time with our friends. I'll say, whoa, did you see Max Verstappen just won the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix? And he goes, no, I haven't. Well, I'm going to just send it to you. Pull it up on your phone. See? And now we're in this race together and we're watching Max cross over and we're like, yes, good job, Max. We do that with our friends. We do it with our kids. But we don't do it when we're trying to sell a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 vehicle. But wouldn't it be great if we said, can you put me on speaker and I'll send you a link and we can look at the vehicle together? Now I'm engaging with the customer. And what it does is the single most important thing you can do as a car salesperson. There were 2 studies done recently by Auto Trader and Driving Sales, and they also did it through a company called Marchex just this February. The number one reason why someone bought from a salesperson in the dealership was what? Say it real loud. Trust. If they trust the dealership and they trust the salesperson, they are more likely to buy. Right next to trust is price. And it's not the lowest price, it's a competitive price. So if you offer a competitive price and you're trustworthy and you have what they're interested in, that's the perfect combination. But sometimes the guest doesn't want to come in, so I'll put them on speakerphone and I'll take them on a tour of the car. So imagine this. The guest says to me, I've sent them the link, and they say, does it have navigation? So I say, yes, if you click on to the 5th picture, you can see it. It also has this and it has that. Now I've got the guest and I kind of clicking the lot. We're not walking the lot, we're clicking the lot together, and I'm settling on a vehicle. AutoTrader released a study a few years ago, and they said, do you know what the number one reason is people will buy the vehicle from you? It's not trust and price. The number one reason is because you have what they want. So what we've got to do is to take what they're interested in, even if they've seen it on another website, like a third-party website, Marktplaats or something like that. I'm going to bring them to my website when I send them the link, and I'm going to navigate with them. Then the guest says, hey, what's my trade word? Well, I'd rather them not learn it that way. I'd rather say, excellent, we can estimate a value for you. Just scroll down and click the trade value link, and we can review it now. Now, the reason why I would do that is we see this all the time. I'm going to send you a link so you can appraise your vehicle. I'm going to send you a link so you can calculate your payments. And we're letting people who aren't in the car business try to evaluate their trade-in. Try to figure payments in their living room, in their office, in their car, without us being there. So what we found is if we co-navigate with them and we hear them, I don't know about you all, but I'm really good at hearing things on the phone. I can hear if my guest is paying attention. I can hear if they're bored with the conversation. I can hear if they're frustrated with the trade value. Now, would I rather send them a link and let them evaluate their trade when I'm not with them, or would I rather evaluate their trade when we're on the phone together? Much better to hear them say, oh, that's lower than I expected. Well, I thought that number was low too. Why don't we have you bring it in? Because today, what's your name?
Sander.
Solon?
Sander.
Sonder. Oh, beautiful name. You're the first Sonder I've ever met. Okay, so I say to my guest, the good news is Sonder is on this afternoon, and he loves the kind of vehicle you're trading in. As chance would have it, why don't we schedule you for 1 o'clock today, and I'll go tell Sonder about the vehicle. He's going to be very excited. And so now I've saved the guest from the misery of evaluating the car on their own, and I've made them feel safe. I've given them a reason to trust. But that requires you to teach your team to be able to do that. But co-navigating is how we made digital retailing work. Now, we moved from COVID very quickly to this chip shortage. Now, I'm out of curiosity, how long are your manufacturers telling you it's going to last?
23.
That's what I heard. I read that article last night. I was like, what the? They keep moving the end zone. Every time we think we're going to score a goal, they move it back. And so we're going to have to adapt. Now, when you think about it, in the U.S., the average dealer that we work with has 200 to 500 cars on the lot at any given time. We have a client that is the number 2 Toyota store in the United States. Last month, they sold 1,299 new vehicles. And they sold a bunch of used vehicles too. They started the month with 100 cars on the lot. But they kept getting them in every single day. And through some miracle of transportation, they were able to get enough cars in to sell that. So our consumers want the vehicles. We just are really struggling with the inventory. So what we're doing in the U.S. is to combat these empty lots. The number one thing I learned, and y'all will get a kick out of this, because you all take really good care of your roads here. The number one thing that I saw car dealers do when inventory levels went low is they paved their lots. And they bragged about it. Well, COVID hit, we had the chip shortage, so we didn't have any cars, so we put new pavement. And now they've got pretty new pavement with no cars on it. So what we have to do now is we've got to change our business model, and prices have really gone up dramatically. In the United States, it is hard to buy any vehicle without retail being the ending price. But there are some dealerships. Anybody recognize the Ram TRX pickup truck? Does that look familiar? That vehicle is an $86,655 list price vehicle. That's our customer. They put a $30,000 dealer markup on it. I told them they were crazy because they might sell it and they might make a few bucks, but they're going to ruin the relationship. It's okay if you're selling it 5 states away because they're an Oregon dealer, but if they sell it in Oregon, they're probably never going to make that customer happy, and that customer is going to tell their friends and family what a bad deal they got. So if it's maybe in Kentucky, 10 states away, maybe that's an idea. But most cars are sold pretty locally. And so what we find is that's a wrong approach. So words matter, especially when inventories are low. So we need to make sure our teams don't make the guest mad. Because if that guest is mad today, they're going to remember it for a long, long time. I've seen it happen a lot. So what we learned very quickly, once we had the chip shortages, all the advances we made with COVID, we gave back with the chip shortage. Car salespeople saying, if you don't buy it, someone else will. Well, they're overconfident. They're very cocky. I would say don't say that.
Steeds meer collega's gebruiken Used Car Controller. Taxeren, calculeren, publiceren of auto's verhandelen met je persoonlijke handelsplatform? Met 1 abonnement geeft Used Car Controller je controle over alle kritische gebruikte autoprocessen. Zo maakt Used Car Controller je tot sterkste in je vak. Vindio is de merkonafhankelijke Automotive partner. Vindio is er voor uw klanten en u. Zo kunt u zorgeloos ondernemen en uw rendement verbeteren. Uw online leads opvolgen binnen 30 seconden? Dat kan met CallDrip. Vraag direct een demo aan.
Instead, what I would ask them to do is, great salespeople are kind and inspiring. That's what I want you to do. So, if the guest finds something, looks like you found one of the last ones available. It conveys the same thing. Inventories are short. You better do something. Good for you. So I want to let that guest know that we agree with that. And what's interesting is you look at this statistically, Ford Motor Company changed their whole business model because of the chip shortage. And I know this because my family's been in the Ford business for 61 years. That's a long, long time. So when you think about it, in this case, Ford, just during the last 4 months, had an increase in retail orders of 787%. Here's the advice I would give any of our dealers in the U.S. and any of my friends in the Netherlands. You better fill your order bank up, because that guest will go someplace else. So what we're advising all of our dealers is get the order, get a deposit. When the floodgates open, and they will eventually, hopefully it's not 23, but it could be, you want to have the orders available. And that gives the guest the good feeling that, hey, I've got a vehicle coming. I don't know what year it's going to be, but I got one on the way. And Ford is giving $1,000 additional incentive for people who place custom orders. So we're rewriting scripting to where we can say to the guest, hey, have you ever had a vehicle made just exactly like you want it? We can do that now. And we're going to have this custom order, and you'll be the first one to receive it when they come in. So keep that in mind. So in our world, we're used to the customer saying, I'd like to buy a new Golf today with this equipment. Well, great, I can help you with that right away. That's the scripting we like to start with. Most people like to come by the dealership and spec out just what they want. If we don't have it in our local inventory, I'm sure we have it in our central inventory. I just want the guest to come in, because if I can sit elbow to elbow with the guest, I can now provide them some level of transportation. But if I can't get them to come in, I probably can't sell them a pre-owned vehicle. I probably can't sell them a vehicle coming in on transit, and I probably can't sell them a special order. So one of the things that we found with the chip shortage is internet salespeople and sales teams in particular are backing away from visits to the dealership, which is crazy. We need to get people coming in so we can sell them on what the future is going to be. And if I can bring them in on the promise that if we don't have it in our local inventory, I'm sure we have it in our central inventory, then they'll come in. Because if you truly believe in your heart of hearts that you're the best dealership to buy a vehicle from and you sell the best vehicles, you better take them out of the market and get them to want to do business with you. As George pointed out with Google My Business, we can let that guest know that we have all those things, but our process will certainly disappoint the guest if we don't say the right things to move that guest forward. So no matter how low their offer is, whether it's on Marktplaats or your own website or whatever website that they're shopping on, we've got to be professional. And we see this all the time. We list a vehicle online and the guest takes a shot at us and offers us a really low price. I'd like to offer you a price below your asking price. What a shock. Everybody I ever sold a car to wanted to pay less. I have been in the car business over 40 years. I have never ever had a guest say to me, I want to pay too much. I don't care what your asking price is, I want to pay more than anybody else. Words no one ever said to me. Everybody was comfortable with paying less. So I have found that during COVID, a lot of the salespeople are saying the wrong thing. Well, your offer is out of line, and we're insulted. I've heard salespeople say that on the phone. I've seen it typed in an email, in a text, as if they own the inventory themselves. They don't. So what I would say is don't say this, or don't let your team say that. Let them say, sounds like you found one you'd like to buy. That's a buying sign. If they offer too low of a price, that's okay. That's a positive step forward. It takes a lot of actions to sell a vehicle. So I'm going to say, sounds like that's the vehicle that you want to buy. Let's work on the details. Price is just one of the details. I've got to still make sure I've got a trade value that works for them. I've got payments that work for them. So don't get your team all stuck on price. If the guest makes you an offer, let your team say, sounds like you found one that really will work for you. Why don't we work on the details? Then we move forward. We're professionals. So now let's skip and talk about used vehicle sourcing ideas. So what we're finding in the U.S. is, as the chip shortage really has become the dominant player in inventory, we now have to compete when we go to buy cars off the street and at the auto auction. At the beginning of COVID, all of the rental companies in the United States sold all their inventory. You know where they're getting their inventory now? At our auctions that we go to. And we are competing with these mega corporations for inventory. Only when they buy it, they can write it down because they're renting it. We don't have that luxury. So what we've got to do is we've got to look inward. So we want to start really asking our clients to focus on that strategy of sell your car online. So if you think about it, in the U.S., CarMax has done a remarkable job. Of all the players in the U.S. marketplace, customers love CarMax. And they love the fact that they can go get their trade value very easily. So they're the ones that we've got to measure up against. If I'm a car dealer in a local market, I want to be like CarMax. Now, Carvana, who you may have seen some of their YouTube commercials, they think car dealers are terrible people. And every month they spend millions of dollars trying to convince people that car dealers are bad. Well, we've got to be different. We've got to say, well, those big mega corporations, they're not going to value your vehicle like we are. Now, one of the things that we found is, it's just like what George was saying during his presentation, we've got to let them know what we do. It's got to show up prominently on our Google My Business page. It's got to show up prominently on our website. We've got to explain how this happens, and we've got to load the lips and the fingertips of our sales team so they convey the right things to the guest. So we need to build an effective search campaign. And right now, if I go to your market or any market and I say to Google, sell my car online, what I've run into is all the national brands that are out there trying to steal my local trade-ins. I've got to be competitive. So in this case, our client bought the ad, the pay-per-click ad that says, sell us your car, real-time car evaluations. In most markets, you're not going to see a car dealer doing that. So if you are interested, I would encourage you all to build a campaign to support that strategy. And better yet, when they do come in, you've got to realize that you're competing against these companies, and you've got to make your situation as easy or perhaps better. Now, in this case, we have the We Buy Any Car, or we've got Tread. Those are national brands, and the national competitors are right there trying to steal our guests right there at the trade-in. But what we have is a huge advantage. We have these big buildings behind our showrooms that have mechanics in them and cars coming in all day long. That's our inventory. That's our bountiful harvest. We've got to, every single day, message our service guests as they schedule a visit or reach out directly about selling or trading a vehicle. And we've got to do it subtly. We've got to make it really valuable to them. We've got to work our database. Every single one of you all have a database. In that database are 1-year-old cars, 2-year-old, 3, 4, 5. And every day you should be culling that database and seeing who's got something that would work for your inventory. And pitch to the guest that you want to buy their car. One thing we learned with COVID is if we needed inventory, and even right now with the spike that we're having, I can say to the guest, when's the last time you drove that car? Oh, well, we don't drive much at all anymore. Could you get by with one vehicle? I think we could. Well, could I pay you too much for your car? That way you can keep one. We'll take your trade in. We'll pay you a good price for it. And that way we've got a vehicle that someone else would truly love. How about that? And the guests appreciate it, and we sell a lot of cars through the database. But we've got to teach our sales team members it's not just about doing the deal. We've got to do the words too. So I love the Rydell Chevrolet store in Grand Forks, North Dakota. They've got this thing going on, Rydell Buys. Well, it says no strings attached. Get the estimated value, contact us to get a firm value. So those are the two options. They say to the guest, do you want to trade it or do you want to sell it? So if you want to sell it, you have to do these 7 things to prepare. Now, I want my sales team members to be able to say that to a guest. Oh, selling a car is not that simple if you want to get a good price for it. You have to clean and detail it. You have to take multiple photos. You have to get the lien on your vehicle. You're going to need to request the payoff amount. You need to have the title. You need to have all those things. You got them? Check, 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 check. No, I don't have any of those things, right? Then you say, when you have a prospective buyer, you have to field phone calls and messages. You have to schedule appointments. You have to meet them in a safe place. Do you want to do that? You also, once you have a buyer, you have to ask for a check that's a good one, or cashier's check or cash. You got to fill out the title correctly and go get it transferred. Are you going to have all of those things prepared, or would you rather do it the easy way? Contact us, show us your vehicle, and we'll receive, or we'll give you a check or cash, whichever one. That's what we've got to teach our team to be able to do. Because we have salespeople all day long that are saying, well, get your evaluation online and maybe you'll sell it yourself. And then what typically happens is 30 days later, the guest sells their vehicle for a price less than what they originally wanted and your dealership could have taken off their hands. We've got to explain to them how easy it is, but we've sometimes got to show them how difficult it could be if they sold it themselves. So we're also finding that our most successful dealers that are sourcing inventory for used vehicles have literally buying teams. They don't have salespeople who might not be in a good state of mind talking to potential car sellers. They don't have the BDC team that might not necessarily handle it well talking to car sellers. They have experienced people that could be salespeople, could be internet or BDC people, but they're saying the right things over and over and over to convince someone to buy or to sell their vehicle. All right? We good so far? All right. So, George, the room is hot. I agree with you. I don't need any napkins right now, but it is hot up here in the spotlight. So let's talk about some retail strategies that will truly change automotive sales. Messaging first. We're seeing a large percent of our clients get rid of forms on their website. They're in a position where they're like at the guest peak of interest. Rather than have them fill out a form, we're going to have them message with us. And now I don't have to chase them to get them on the phone or email or text them. When they're on the form, they can, in this website, they can buy online, which is digital retailing. They can calculate their payment, which is digital retailing. Or they can ask an expert, which is a salesperson or a BDC person at the dealership. But it's live. It's not a form that they're filling out. It is a human being that is communicating with them that works at the dealership. We love that approach. So it's what we call the messaging first dealer strategy versus lead forms. Now, overwhelmingly, and George can support this with his data, customers still love to fill out forms because the form is there. What we're finding is if you take the form away, they'll message you. So would you rather have them fill out a form or would you rather have them message you? I, for one, would rather them message me because now I don't have to chase them. I'm engaged with them. And the toughest part of lead handling is getting the engagement. That's really, really difficult. So what we've got in front of you is a study that was done for a dealer in the state of Wisconsin, large dealer. They had 5,344 leads in one time period and 5,041 in another time period. And they were comparing live chat versus messaging. And you understand the differential. Live chat is on a browser. When the browser is up, we're engaged. When the browser is closed, chat's over. No more. But with messaging, it's persistent. We're able to keep up with the guest over time. So a week later, a month later, I'm able to re-message them. I can't go back to chat and say, where are you? Where are you? But on messaging, I can. I can say, hey, how's it going? So the appointment set rate was 18% higher with messaging. The sold rate to leads was 7% higher. The unit sales were remarkably higher on fewer leads. Now, I don't know about you all, but do I want leads or do I want buyers? I've never been able to go to the grocery store and take my leads in there and say, hey, how about some bread? I have to have someone who buys a vehicle from me so I can have the revenue to be able to do that. So consider a messaging first strategy. Leads are not going away. They're going to be there. They're very capable of fending for themselves. What I would ask you to consider is a messaging first strategy, and we're working with a company called Podium in the US to try to perfect it because it really makes a big difference. And I partner with them because we believe in the strategy, but it can work with any kind of program that you're using, WhatsApp or other companies. So basically what we're trying to say is, if a guest comes out of the website and they've messaged with us, in a few days I could say something like this: "Hi, Julie, the blue Mini that you're interested in asked me to say hi." And so Julie's sitting there going, "Oh, that's funny. I've been thinking about it too." And we have a revival. We have a guest who kind of got off the website and now we're back engaged with them. So messaging is persistent long term. Chat ends when the browser does. So we need to make sure we keep up with them that way. So Rhino Events has live video walkarounds. They're my favorite. I'll share this with you. 3 or so years ago, I was here, and I'm so stoked. I'm like, I'm going to show them the video is the most powerful communications tool. And use it in text and all the other. And some fellow raised his hand and says, "Why not just use live streaming? Why not use FaceTime?" And I was like, darn, that's a great idea. Why not? And so what we found is, the ideas that I pick up in these kind of conversations and what I learn from you all, we go back to the U.S. So what do we do now? We take it to the next level. We say to the guest, "Do you have a favorite messaging platform? Because we will do the vehicle walk around." I remember as a young salesperson, when we finally had portable phones, before cell phones, I would say to the guest, "I'm going to go walk around the vehicle and tell you about it." So I would just be describing it and I'd say, "Look at it, it's got great tires. I'm in the car, they haven't been a smoker. I mean, this car is great." And they're listening to me. But now when I can walk out there and I can say, "See, look at those tires. See, look at these seats. Looks like nobody ever sat in the back seat of the car." Now when I can say that, now I've got that guest engaged with me, I can now work towards an appointment. So all of these work to really enhance that one word, trust. And if we can get to that level of trust, we're going to sell a car. Now, Paul said, "Is there any new technology that we should show these guys that's percolating in the U.S.?" And I said, "Funny you should ask. We've got a few that are starting to make some noise." So, artificial intelligent assistants. How many of you all use artificial intelligence to communicate with your guests right now? Good. He's raising his hand real low. Don't want to tell the other guys they might do what we're doing. Artificial intelligence works. What's great about it is you combine artificial with human intelligence, so AI with HI, you have the perfect combination. So I want to share with you, HI, human intelligence, is what we're used to. Our people build relationships, they build value, they provide in-person customer service, and they manage and they upsell the guest. Artificial intelligent assistants are scalable, and they're always available. So long as your electric is on, your computer's working, they're working. They're your best employee. They're reliable and they're consistent. They never gripe. They never ask for a raise. Well, companies ask for a raise, but they don't. And they're predictable and they're persistent. So what we found is when you can blend them and have the AI do the automation of repetitive and routine tasks, it frees your people up to do the human interaction. It works really well. Now, the company that's most dominant in the U.S. is a company called Conversica. In Conversica, it's so funny, I used to never notice when someone coughed in the audience, and now it's like, oh my, has he been tested? That same stuff. And man, I don't cough anymore. I've feel like I got to run outside and cough somewhere. It's terrible, isn't it? So he's sitting there going, why in the heck did you call me out on that? But the interesting thing is when you think about the 4 Ps, promptness, Conversica, and artificial intelligence gets 100%. When it comes to personalization, they're actually better than human agents when it comes to personalization, but that's where humans do really, really well. They got an 83%. Persistence, humans give up way too quick. I can't tell you how many salespeople say, oh, they're not interested. Well, as soon as you say that, they just bought a car someplace else. So we want to make sure that we are persistent. And the performance of email delivery. AI emails get delivered at a 90% plus rate. Dealerships that communicate via their CRMs have a really low email delivery rate. So AI helps overcome that. So what's interesting about it is when you look at AI communications, to me, we were talking about this earlier, if I give you a long email, what do you read? 1 or 2 sentences. If I give you a short email, what do you read? All of it, right? Good morning, Michael. And this is September 7th, so this is yesterday. Good morning, Michael. I recently received your request on the F-350. Is this a good email address? From Sarah, the Internet Sales Assistant. Sarah is just software. Sarah's not a human, but what did Michael think? Michael said, yeah, and this is my cell number. He volunteered it. We have salespeople that won't even ask, but Sarah got it on the very first effort. And now that we've got their cell number, what can we do? We can call them, we can text them. So it makes life a lot better and more likely that we're going to get an appointment. What we've also found is, if the guest is abandoned by their salesperson, Sarah never forgets. So Sarah says, hi, Alan. Hopefully you've already been taken care of. I want to check to ensure David, not me, was able to connect with you. Do you feel like you have everything you need? Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful morning. Sarah says that. So Alan's sitting there going, oh, that's so nice. Sarah just wants to make sure I'm being taken care of. So what does Alan do? Alan says, well, oops. Oh, she says all those things. And Alan says, waiting on a call back from him. He was to call me yesterday and did not hear from him. All right? So what does the manager do at that point? Yes, maybe not kill him, maybe just knock him down or something. But the fact of the matter is, as Sarah is your employee that never sleeps, that never gives up, that never has emotions, Sarah just goes out there hour by hour, churning up opportunities and reawakening opportunities. So what's cool is, Paul, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't Marplots have a technology similar to this? They do. What's it called? Alice. Right? So, keep that in mind that this kind of technology exists in your own marketplace, and it's something that you can leverage to your own benefit. Now, you know that your phones, as we've talked, are the heartbeats. So once Sarah is able to get that phone number, now I'm able to take it to the next level. But we can text and we can email back and forth 10, 20, 30 times, but it makes a huge difference when we're able to finally communicate by the phones. Now, what's interesting about the phones, though, is getting salespeople to make phone calls. Even getting BDC teams to make phone calls. So there's a company in the U.S. called Volley. Of all things, it was created by a guy who's a restaurant owner. He's got this really luxurious restaurant in different places across the United States. And you'll want to go there if you ever come over to see us. It's called Pizza Ranch. Now, doesn't that sound good? Pizza Ranch? Let's go to the ranch and have a pizza? Maybe a barbecue or something, but maybe not a pizza. But what's cool is he also needed to keep up with his customers and communicate with them, so he built a technology But then he went on and he says, we could leverage this in other industries. So he loves automotive, and what it affords him to do now is he can work with our clients, and we've got our first few clients that are starting to use this. I can go in and I can pick which group of clients that I'm interested in communicating with. These 12, these 1,500, these 27, and I can make phone calls. I can get my team member to do it. But the cool part of it is, it literally allows you to use this interface, and as soon as your agent hangs up, they're wearing a headset, as soon as your salesperson hangs up, it serves up the next call. So it's telemarketing in your dealership with your team, and you get to see every dial, every activity, all the calls instantaneously, and you can have them do all those same words. So it works for disorganized dealerships, it works for very organized dealerships. We were shocked at how effective it was for a big Chevrolet store we worked with in Michigan. They're crushing it, and their salespeople actually enjoy it. It takes things off their plate. So when they finish a call, they just check a couple boxes, and then they're on to the next call. And it's helping them to maintain a good long-term relationship. Now, the other technology that I was kind of interested in is one that is all about real-time coaching. Throughout my career of working with salespeople, I've oftentimes been on the phone or listening to them on the phone and think, oh my God, don't say that, say this. And I'm listening and I'm trying to give them the words to say real time. They have a new technology coming out, and I told it to Paul, and I said, dude, you've got to have this. This would be something you could use at your own call center. And basically, it's real-time coaching. So I've got a video I'll play. Let me make sure that the volume is set to play. I think I'm good. All right, so we'll watch how it works.
So tell me, what got you interested in our solution to start with? Interesting. It sounds like you're saying this product might actually be a good fit for you. Is that right?
Balto's Smart Checklist helps reps execute the key milestones that drive successful calls. By always keeping reps on track, managers know that conversations are carried out effectively and no calls slip through the cracks. When the rep hears the objection like, it's too expensive, Balto identifies the objection and instantly provides the rep a successful rebuttal.
Let's see if we can find an option that works with your budget. Is there a particular price point you're targeting for this purchase?
By providing reps with instant, highly targeted suggestions throughout the call, Balto saves calls before it's too late.
Hey, I totally get it. I totally understand. I'm just like that too.
When the rep gets nervous and starts talking too much, Balto hears it and reminds him to pause and let the other person talk.
Could you elaborate on that?
Balto gets rid of the bad habits that lose calls and replaces them with highly effective habits that close calls. With Balto, leadership can easily identify what's working and what's not, and then instantly push the winning strategies live across the entire team. Grow your business by empowering your people to make the most of every conversation.
Try Balto Live Call Guidance.
So I don't know about y'all, but that's something I want to have on my computers to where my team is saying and doing. And what we found is we've only got one client. They have no clients in the United States. So our first client is going live with them, and we get to write the scripts. So they're going to be saying what we encourage them to say, and it's really powerful. What was interesting is this, and I'll share this because it's a good learning. They were working with insurance companies, and in the United States, Geico is this big insurance company. You may have seen their Gecko commercials or whatever it is on YouTube or something. But what's impressive about it is using Balto, they were able to learn something really important about their scripting. So they would be on a call, and the guest would say, I use Geico. And the agent, the scripting would say, what do you like best about Geico? And the guest would tell them. And then the guest would fall back in love with Geico and stay with Geico. So they changed a phrase. And they said, what do you least like about Geico? And the guests would say what they didn't like about it, and they were able to convert them. So what we're learning is, and we don't know that we're always teaching team members to say the right thing. But I do know that if I can put it in front of them and ask them to have that as a safeguard, and I especially like that talk time. If it'll tell my team members, hey, don't talk so much, it'll make a big difference. So keep that in mind. Now, the eighth area that I really want to focus on is one that's near and dear to my heart. When I talk about successful salespeople, most salespeople who are hyper successful are what we term 4-bucket salespeople. And the 4 buckets are, I can sell to the guest on the floor, I can sell to the guest that is on the phone, I can sell to the guest on the internet, and I can develop repeat and referral business. A 4-bucket salesperson does all 4. Now, most salespeople are okay on the floor, okay on the phone, okay on the internet, but they are non-existent on repeat and referral buyers. So we have engineered an idea and a training program that really was just born from my own experience at the dealership that my dad taught me. He goes, if you want to stay in the car business, you got to keep selling the same customer again and again and again, and selling their friends again and again and again. So the average customer remembers their salesperson in the U.S. for 24 hours. It's amazing, isn't it? And I bet it's the same thing in the Netherlands. You know, unless you've got super salespeople, right? So what we say is the CRM, that typically stands for Customer Relationship Management Tool, really stands for the Customer Remembers Me tool. And we've got to do a better job of doing that. But we've also got a hidden benefit in the pocket or purse of all of our sales team members. It's a smartphone, but we don't leverage that. We don't teach them how to use it. And unlike the pens and the papers and the chairs and the computers, we don't even have to pay for it in most cases. They already bought it. All we got to do is teach them how to use it more efficiently. One of the best ways to do that is to teach them how to do friend notes. So I was trying to think of what's an easy way to help salespeople remember things that are important to the guest. Because as I use that example with my wife, what do you like? What are you interested in? What are your favorite colors? If I can say that to a guest and I can say, hey, who else is going to be riding in the vehicle? And now I learn their family. What kind of things are you into? And I learn their recreation. What are your interests? Oh, I like to do arts. I like to drink wine. Where do you work? Oh, I work here. Great. What are your needs? I need a car that can tow a boat. I need a car that's safe. Do you have any dogs, cats, or pets that's going to be riding along with you? And when I gather all that information, the guest is able to say, in this case, Paul always remembers what kind of work I do and my kids' names and even my cat's names. I love that. So it's important to remember those little details when we're doing follow-up calls. So in this case, I know Samantha's married, has 2 kids. She and her family love to camp, snow ski, and play soccer. She loves art and enjoys traveling to the U.S. She runs her own boutique accounting firm, and she needs to pull a 3,000-pound camper and room for ski gear, and she's got 3 mixed breeds cats, and there's their names. Now, I have something that I can always talk to her about, because over time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make really good notes. So here's Paul, the salesperson. Hi, I'm Paul, and Samantha just bought her new 4Runner from me, and I'd like her to become a lifelong customer. Well, that's a dream. Dreams don't become reality until we start building processes to effectively do that. And she loves him. Today that she remembers his name, right? But in 24 hours, she probably won't know who he is. So what we say is at delivery, hey, would you do me a favor? Could you stand in front of your vehicle? I'm going to snap a picture of you on this awesome day. Then I know their cell number, and I'm going to text them that picture, and I'm going to say to them, you have my permission to post that on social media. And if you would tag me, I'd like to tell my friends that I sold you a vehicle. So now I've taken that photo and I've taken it to a different level. I now am going to send them my business card with my picture on it, and I'm going to show them that I am a human being and I'm their car salesperson, so I'm going to give them my contact information in that same text. But then I'm going to take their picture and I'm going to put it as their contact photo. And then I'm going to take the friend notes and I'm going to put it in my phone, in my notes section, and I've got it until I need to update it. And as their kids age, as their pets get replaced, I'm going to make updated notes. As I get to sell them not just this vehicle, but others, my business tends to grow, all because of my friend notes. So we then have to teach our sales team members to grow their business. Not just the people they sell, but what about their friends, their neighbors, the people they know online, the people they meet at school, the people that they are interacting with. Those will never go in the CRM. So a lot of salespeople or a lot of managers say to me, I don't like you teaching our salespeople to put their customers in their smartphone. And I'm like, well, they're not putting their friends, neighbors, and other acquaintances in the CRM, are they? Why don't we teach them to stay at your dealership? Here's the crazy thing in the U.S. First year salesperson turnover rates are 75%. There's only a 25% chance that a salesperson survives the first year. If it's a woman, it's a 90% turnover rate in the first year according to NADA statistics. The only way we're going to keep our costs low and keep our employment high with our employees and the loyalty is to teach them how to continually develop business. And we need to teach them how to nurture their guests. What to say in phone calls, emails, texts, social media. We've got to keep that out there and teach them each and every day. I'd even encourage them to do something that comes natural to them. Go take a video of the vehicle that they like and put it on YouTube. Do a review. Go out there and become internet famous. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples from the U.S. Jeff Teague, he's a car salesperson at the Fred Anderson Toyota store in Raleigh, North Carolina. He does walk around videos and he puts these big things on there, and he's got 93,700 subscribers and 34 million views. People from all over the state of North Carolina and then other neighboring states know Jeff. Jeff is internet famous. It cost the dealership $0. His relationship with the dealership has never been greater because he drives opportunity back in. Every time he posts a video, people watch it. This was posted yesterday, 13 hours ago, and he already had 1,000+ views. Now, there's this guy in Louisville, Kentucky, where I live now, and he's known as the Chevy Dude. He even sells hats and t-shirts. Paul knows him. He's famous. He's got almost 400,000 subscribers. It cost the dealership $0 and cost him no money. He goes out and does videos, and he's got 43 million+ views. So think about it. Get your team involved. Teach them how to develop their business. Don't be afraid that as they succeed, you'll benefit. So keep that in mind. And just one more thing. Start with the customer experience and work backwards. How many of you all, if you would, raise your hand if you've got an Apple phone in your pocket? Or, yeah. This guy did a pretty good job of trying to get us all addicted to these smartphones. And we're all there. So he created this customer experience strategy. And what he says is, let the guests know what it's all about. So what does our guest want from the dealership? Here's what's crazy. I've been coaching the wrong way for a lot of years. I've been teaching salespeople how to describe an experience when they come to the dealership, but I left off one important thing, the best part. So now when we teach it, we know that the guests want the vehicle when they come in. So in the U.S., when you come in, we do what we call spot deliveries, same-day deliveries. From what I understand, your market doesn't allow for that, but we can do same-day selling. So ultimately what we say is, we're going to have the vehicle ready that we talked about, and it's going to be set aside for you. I even put a hang tag on it with your name on it. I'm going to present all the key features. You can take it on a test drive. I like to call it a joyride. When we get back, if you decide it's the right vehicle, then we'll go over all the numbers and make sure they work for you. But the best part is, if you like the vehicle and the deal, you can take it home with you today. Now in the U.S., we can do that. Maybe not so much, so I've just re-scripted for that. And if the inventory is not available, I'm going to say the best part is, if you like the vehicle and the deal, we're going to find a vehicle in transit that's exactly what you want, or we can build it just for you straight from the factory. So I want that guest coming in to know that we're doing a deal. We're gonna put something together today. It's not just for the fun of it. So ultimately what I want to close with is, by making it easy to say yes, the guest will say it more often. So quick question for you. Did any of you all find this helpful?
Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate
I have
it.
one question for you.
You bet.
Shouldn't it be better to skip adjectives like online and digital and internet selling or internet retailing, because it's just retailing?
I think you are absolutely 100% correct. We call it digital retailing, but it is retailing. What it helps you to do, perhaps from a branding standpoint, is it lets the guests know. So George was talking about that in his presentation. Sometimes we've got to speak the guest language. And automotive retailing, I can tell you as a car dealer's kid, I'll share one really interesting thing. I'll go live. This is what people think of car salespeople in the United States. So let's go here. Pull this up. Way worse than that. All right. So hang on. There we go. So we'll go to Google. You can do this in your own browser. Professions ranked on ethics. Okay. So I'm a car dealer's kid. I've lived this life. So up at the top of the list, nurses. Love them. They're saving people's lives every day with COVID. Doctors, grade school teachers, pharmacists. My daughter married a pharmacist. He's a good dude. All right? Then we come down, we see advertising practitioners. Sorry for some of you guys. All right? But as we scroll on down, just above members of Congress is a category called car salespeople. This is a 23-year-old survey. I looked at it for the last 12 years. Where have we always been? We have never been more than second from the bottom. So the only reason I would tell you that you might want to consider another term than just retailing is, internally to us, it is just retailing. But to the consumer, if you're just doing the same old thing, I don't want it. I want to have something different. So what we're finding is companies are renaming theirs. And so you might want to go to like the Sonic Automotive Group in the US and look at what they've named theirs. We're seeing a lot of people do that kind of stuff. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, Paul, I'll turn it back over to you, buddy.
So thank you.
Dank u wel voor het luisteren naar de DCDW-podcast van Paul de Vries met de missie om de online automotive beter te maken. Vond u deze podcast interessant? Abonneer dan meteen via Spotify, Soundcloud of iTunes En deel deze podcast via LinkedIn met uw netwerk. De Deze podcast van Paul de Vries wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door de volgende partners: Marktplaats, Coldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Vindio, Used Car Controller en tweedehands.be.